Hey, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Sylvain. I make videos on my channel about the intersection between art, machinery, and a little bit of history. Today, I got a really cool build for you guys. I'm trying to rebuild a 1990 version of my personal Toyota pickup that I had. And while we build, I'm going to tell you a little fun story that I had with that car. And I think you guys will really enjoy it. Yeah, this took me about a month and a half to build, so it's been a big video coming. So I really hope you enjoy and stick around for the end because I got an extra little bonus story at the end. So yeah, thanks guys. Let's get into it. So back maybe a couple of years ago, I finally got a chance to actually buy my dream truck, dream pickup truck. I'm not necessarily a big pickup truck guy, but ever since I saw Top Gear's test on the Toyota pickup and its indestructibility, I had to get one myself. So finally, once Whistle and Diesel posted his Toyota durability test videos, well, that inspired me to finally go ahead and pick one up for myself. Well, this thing was a beauty. It had 270,000 kilometers on it. For those of you who are not in the Queen's English, it was a beautiful truck. Had a little bit of rust around the fenders and stuff, which ended up fixing up, but it was actually otherwise quite mint. It was the V6 manual, 4-wheel drive, awesome, just like the one you see here, except it was a 94. And so the story today was basically along the lines of my off-roading journey with my friend. I'm gonna keep his name. You know, I'm gonna keep him unnamed just for privacy reasons. But if you're listening to this story, you know exactly who you are. So my buddy had a Pathfinder at the time, the same time as I had my pickup. For those who don't know, it was just like an SUV from like 2002. Pretty decent off-road. It was a 4-wheel drive, but it was it was just mostly like he didn't have any tires or anything on it, but it was just mostly bone stock. So we went on this trip to, I think this was the first time I actually got to drive my pickup off-road in the snow. So for those of you who don't know, I live in Canada, and Canada has very extreme seasons on both ends. The summers are very hot, and then the winters are very cold. So you get this transition period where right after the snow is all fallen and everything, up in the Pacific Northwest, we get really heavy snow in the upper parts of the mountains. And then once the heat comes in, which around where my area is, that happens quite quickly. So on the trip that we decided to go, it was right coming into spring and things were really starting to thaw out. So we drove up to this common place we always drive to. We go to this place quite a lot in the summer, but we hadn't really gone in these conditions before very often. So good test for the off-roaders. So we finally get there. It's about an hour and 10-minute drive. We get there, and sure enough, right away there's snow in lots of different places all over. But it was warm enough where it wasn't going to be miserable. One thing to mention, which is very crucial to this story, is, well, let's put it this way: my friend has a lot of testosterone. So, of course, naturally, being interested in off-roading and not only being outdoors and doing manly things, he also likes to absolutely send it. Now you can imagine you take someone like this and then you combine the presence of a girl in the mix. And sure enough, guess who he had driving passenger, driving shotgun? A girl, I know. So we get there and she's tagging along. By the way, if you are watching this, I doubt you are, but I'm not going to name you, but very chill. Very reasonable, and as it'll turn out, very patient given the events that happen next. So we get up on this trail and we're driving, finding our way down the trail, and we know this one spot where we like to pull off to get some nice pics, kind of pull off to give our backs a break from the bumping and the hard roads getting up to it. And we pull off, and it turns out it's very different during this season because now there's a bunch of puddles everywhere. So we get these puddles that are just all over, and some of them we don't really know how big they are because, like I said, some of them are totally covered by ice. and some of them aren't because it's warm, getting warmer out, but things are still thawing out. So we get up to this one puddle, and of course he wants to absolutely send it. And every single puddle that we see on the way up to this location, he has to hit. We did a little hill climb up some snow before. I actually managed to get pretty sideways in the pickup. It was actually quite scary, but no, we were all good. We managed to still make the hill climb up to the top. And anyway, so we get to this one spot where we pull off, and these puddles are way bigger than we anticipated, but you know, nonetheless, we've got straps, we got recovery gear, we could pull each other out. We're not too worried about that. We've been stuck before. So we get out there, and there's no scouting, no checking the puddle whatsoever. And of course he's there, and he's got to absolutely just put his foot down for this girl he's got interest in. And he gets to the puddle, lined up to the puddle, and I'm behind him. And you know, as soon as you get to that area, because we have the windows down so we can communicate, you can smell the marsh, and we know this is like really, really gooey, kind of gross stuff. I mean, all this freshness, so to speak, is being let out suddenly because everything's thawing up. So even though most of it was frozen over, we could still smell. So we knew there's some real like boggy bits up here. So he lines up for this big puddle he wants to send it through. Doesn't have to. It's not like it's in the way. He just wants to send it. And you know what? Go for it, you know? So he does. Drives right in and breaks the surface of the ice over top of the puddle pretty well. Just absolutely launches into this thing. That being said, this ice that was on the surface that he was breaking through wasn't so easy to break through once his tires had actually gone all the way into the puddle, and the ice was actually up to the bumper. And as he broke the different chunks, he eventually got stuck completely, not because of the mud, but because his front end of his truck got completely jammed against these big sort of sheer, flat, broken off sections of ice. And some of the ice, as it turns out, which we found out later, because he ended up stopping and going, oh my God, that was crazy. And he's up to the doors, he's taking in water, and it's cold water too. We realized that suddenly the puddle is red. And we're thinking, uh-oh, no, not blood, don't worry. It was transmission fluid that was leaking out because he had an automatic. And the coolant lines that run to the front of the car where the radiator is got severed by these exposed chunks of ice ramming into the front bottom chin part of this car. So yeah, we get this, we get in here and we immediately know he's screwed. So immediately he's panicking, doesn't want to look like it because there's a girl right beside him in the passenger seat. And he drives back out, or tries to. Nothing happens. He's totally high-centered. Remember, this thing is not some big mud bogged out, rig. This is just a typical, Pathfinder that he bought for very cheap. So we're not really too worried about breaking things too much, which, again, in the combination of the sendiness of this guy, absolute baller combination. So, so we get to this point where, like, okay, crap, we got to try to either just punch it or get the straps on as fast as we can because we're losing ETF. I knew immediately right away. I knew what it was. Dipped our hand in there. We knew right away. Okay, that's ETF. So yeah, it's leaking transmission fluid. We got to try to get this thing to get out of here and have the help of the engine before the transmission runs out of fluid and is going to cook itself. So hurry up, and I drive the truck. I drive the pickup up behind him. We get lined up real quick. And of course, he's stuck in the mud completely. He can't even open his door. He has to do Dukes of Hazzard style out the window, and then walk and basically cling onto like the side of the car, try not to get too stuck in the mud. And then he actually what ends up doing is he runs through the back of the car, and he pops the rear hatch for the Pathfinder. And so he's sitting there with his hatch open, and he's just like the floor of the back of the car where you'd load in like groceries is right at the level of the water. So he has to take his hand and roll up his sleeve and dip his whole arm into basically completely frozen water. I mean, this is water that was iced over before. Now he's got to stick his hand down in there and try to find the hook on the back of his Pathfinder. So he's looking for his hook. He doesn't even know where it is really. He's just kind of feeling for it, like a loop or something. And he has to take his hand out, and it's burning. I don't know if any of you guys know, but that cold water can absolutely burn. It's weird. It's almost like it gets so cold that it just becomes like a burning sensation. So anyway, he's reaching around in there, and he's getting his sleeves all muddy, his shirt's just ruined. And not to mention there's like, on the front of the car, there's ATF. So who knows if you got like oil in there too. So he's reaching around. He finally managed to get a, a little, his hook onto the little loop underneath the truck. We weren't really quite sure, but we figured, we'll give it a shot. So we go to yank him out. And at this point, we don't know how much transmission fluid he's got left, because he's been leaking, like he's been hemorrhaging it this whole time as we're trying to get this under this time crunch. And so he's reached his hand in there. Finally, he's like, okay, I got it. And he was like, okay, great. So I quickly run into the truck. I take the slack up. He has to, wind his way around the truck again, crawl through the window out the back, because he has to close the hatch, but he can't close the hatch from the inside. So he goes around and he jumps in through the window. Meanwhile, the girl he's with is just having a huge laugh at this whole thing, both of us struggling. And she's just watching this whole thing from the sidelines. I mean, she doesn't really know, like, she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, there's only like really a 2-person job just to get this done. Besides, she's dressed up a little bit, so she doesn't want to get all muddy anyway. And I wouldn't expect it from her anyway. So everything's all good. But so he gets back in the car. We're quickly, boom, we got to get out of here. Like, this is crazy. And the car won't move. It just won't move. We had to yank the crap out of it. So realized, okay, straps on, at least that's good. New plan, get the shovels. We are shoveling mud out the back end of this car. Like, we got water, mud, and ATF mix, just trying to heave this mud out from behind the back wheels. And it was just absolutely the most disgusting smell you have ever smelled when it comes to rotten, 6-month-old marsh that had just been first exposed to air for all of the winter. And so he's got his arm all the way in it. The inside of the inside of the Pathfinder is just absolutely covered in mud now at this point. And so yeah, cleanliness is out of the equation at this point. We're not really worried about staying clean. So we get this shovel out, start cleaning all the mud out from the back of the truck, and we try again. Now this time, I don't know if you understand, but when you take up the slack on a recovery strap, it's able to take quite the load, but we really tested the limits of the load of this strap, because we took all of the weight of the Toyota and took up all of the slack in force. So we had like backed up and then yanked it like a slingshot. Like, it was just thunk, and the whole truck like jumps and suddenly becomes stationary. And there's this horrible sound that comes with it. It's just like a clunk, like everything. You feel like the whole truck is just being stretched because it's stopping so hard. Because we're thinking, how are we going to get this thing home? We need to get this thing out of the water so we can at least try to see where the leak is, maybe try to fix it. We don't have any spare ATF anyway, so, we're just gonna have to run on really low fluid. Anyway, we finally get the thing out, and now we're thinking, oh crap. So everything's all muddy. We probably drained all of our ATF at this point. And meanwhile, when we were recovering, it doesn't really help that he was in reverse, but absolutely pinning it on the limiter, trying to get those rear wheels to spin in low-high settings on both settings. Yeah, it wasn't working, but we needed the engine in order to get it out. It was so stuck that there was no way that just the Toyota would be able to pick it up, because it wouldn't even have the grip on the surface anyways. We had to use the momentum, and we could only get them out if we combined the momentum with the power of the car. So we got no clue how much ETF is left in it, but when we pulled it out, we realized it's basically drained. We pulled the dipstick and it was nothing. There was nothing in there. So we're like thinking, okay, crap. Well, there's no point panicking now. It took too long to get the car out. Well, transmission's probably cooked. And so what do? We pull the Pathfinder into an area that's a little bit wider. Actually very nice. They have, by standard, they have a little hook that's bolted onto the frame. Makes it very useful for like, not just like a loop, but like a hook. And so it makes it very useful for quick recoveries like that. So fortunately, we had to just use the ball hitch on the back. So we take the recovery strap, loop it around the ball hitch. You can imagine how he's feeling right now. He just got out in the off-road, in the wilderness, just the beginning of the day, super excited about it. And now we have to call it an early day because the one puddle he first decided to send it into completely wrecks his car and keeps it from being able to drive under its own power. Yeah, so, and then you top that off with the girl being there, and yeah, the embarrassment, the secondhand embarrassment for me was real at that moment. So we finally get on flat ground. We swap the ends around so we can flat tow the Pathfinder back to the main road where the staging area is, where everyone takes their dirt bikes off of and stuff. And so we ended up having to pull the whole thing back as one sort of train, where the Toyota was the power and the Pathfinder was like the anchor, and it had to just hold on the brakes. Now we still had to have the engine running, so we knew that the transmission was probably going to be toast, maybe, but we're not really sure. It wasn't really moving on its own power. It had no more fluid in the torque converter, so there's no way of knowing. But anyways, we finally get it to the main road, and at this point, the girl he's with is upset because, well, no, she wasn't actually upset. She was just kind of sort of what is happening, because like I don't think she's ever had anything like this happen before. But anyway, it was just such a funny circumstance. So we ended up having to leave the Pathfinder on the side of the road at the staging area, or at least close to the main road, where he had to lay on the brakes to get there so that we keep up the tension in the recovery strap. And so yeah, we leave it there. We leave it at the beginning of the staging area, at the start of the trail, and we go off. And because unfortunately my friend has work later that day, we couldn't spend the whole day trying to recover it and run back and forth, try to get get a recovery car, or call a tow truck or whatever. So what ended up happening was, unfortunately, I had to drive them home in the Toyota and basically drop them off so that I could also go to work. And then the next morning we had to leave the car overnight on the side of the highway. And the next morning he came with his dad, who also had a pickup, and I guess they flat towed it back. I actually don't quite remember that exactly, but yeah. So later on, as we found out and we did some more assessment of the damage of this Pathfinder, we found out that the transmission was absolutely cooked, totally destroyed. So it wouldn't select any gear, would have no power even after being topped up with fluid. So this Pathfinder, which he bought for $1,800, which was a running and driving perfectly good Pathfinder for $1,800, that was a deal. So it's even more of a deal now. So we had to scrap it. He had to say goodbye to it. It was so sad. He ended up buying a Jeep later on to replace it. We ended up taking the Toyota and his Jeep and another friend's XJ Jeep. And that was pretty fun. That was a good time. We went out there, and at this point, his sendiness never went away. The moral of the story was his love for absolutely sending it on everything ended up biting him again, because as we went again later in the year, this was well into the summer and it was very dry out now, and he ended up taking it onto the trail and running it so fast on the trail. It was in case anybody was wondering, I think it was a YJ? No. It was like a late 90s Jeep Wrangler, you know, two-door. And he ended up running this thing so hard that he totally exploded the front and rear sections of the forward drive shaft U-joints. So both U-joints on the front drive shaft absolutely exploded. So he was only running, oh no, it was on the back. Yeah, both of them on the back absolutely exploded. So he was only running front wheel drive to get back home. And by that time, our other friend with the XJ, he had a total problem where he went through a puddle so fast that his alternator was toast and it wasn't charging his battery. So what we had to do was, so we had a train where eventually, because his battery can only take so many recharges and jumps before he would stop another 5 minutes down the road and get, this is on the same road again, later in the year. We had only to do like 5 times where we could re-jump the battery or recharge it, and then it would die before it wouldn't hold a charge and it would just die immediately or not keep the truck running. So again, recovery strap, flat toe, all the way back. And unfortunately, not only did my buddy with the Wrangler have to leave it on the side of the highway again, but also our other friend had to, we tried swapping, oh, that's what we had to do. So on the side of the highway, we actually took, because they have the same 4-liter inline-6 engine in both Jeeps, they're able to swap without any issues the alternator from the Wrangler that was still good but had the broken U-joints and couldn't run on the highway with just the front diff, and we were able to swap it into the XJ, and then we were able to get the XJ able to charge its own battery, at least keep a charge while running, and then drive it back, and then they could recover the Wrangler when they came back. So anyway, it was just this really funny. We were flat towing these cars on the shoulder at about 80 kilometers an hour, and finally we realized we can't do this all the way back home. It's an hour and 10-minute drive. This is like way too dangerous. So also lots of strain on the Toyota, and you know, who knows, right? These Toyotas, in case you don't know, they're not very powerful. So yeah, so that was our story of going off-roading. And in case you're wondering, yes, we got my buddy's girl interest home totally safely, and she was totally okay. So yeah. Hey guys, if you stuck around this long, you're an absolute champion, and you're exactly the kind of person that I want watching my videos. So thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. An upcoming channel. I'm very small right now, so every little bit I can get, I'll take and be super grateful for. Thank you. Yeah, well, cars are getting expensive to buy for like model cars. If anybody knows like the market for 1/18 scale cars, they're not cheap. They're like $200 for some really good collectible ones, and they'll like minimum in the box, they're like $50. You know, for something like this. For something like this. It's like so much money. I mean, how could you justify it for a toy? So making things myself, it's kind of what we do here at this channel. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this build. It was a lot of fun. It's mostly cardboard, stuff I had lying around. And yeah, it was my own personal truck, just a 1990 version. And it's really near and dear to my heart. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.